Welcome to Sterling Visionary Voices, the podcast dedicated to bringing you diverse, innovative leadership insights and actionable strategies for success. Join hosts Laura McNeil and Bob Madeiros as they explore the art and science of role model leadership through thought-provoking conversations with real professionals. Whether you're a seasoned leader or aspiring to excellence, Sterling Visionary Voices is your guide to navigating the complexities of your leadership journey.
Hello and welcome to Sterling Visionary Voices. I'm your host, Bob Madeiros, and it's my pleasure to introduce our guest today, Mr. Cory Godwin. Now, Cory is currently the Jail Services Coordinator for the Florida Sheriff's Association. He retired after 34 years of public service while serving as the Director of Jail Operations for the Walton County Sheriff's Office. His illustrious career in public service began at the age of 19 as a state corrections officer. Throughout his professional life, Cory has served as assistant warden. He's been the chief deputy tax collector for Walton County, even supporting the newly elected Bay County tax collector, where he served as chief deputy, leading and serving during the relief and recovery effort associated with Hurricane Michael. In 2014, Cory was instrumental in his organization winning the Governor's Sterling Award. He's also been recognized by the Florida Tax Collectors Association for distinguished service on 7 occasions. He has provided hundreds of presentations and consults on organizational culture, performance, strategic planning, and leadership. Now, Cory's a graduate of the Certified Public Manager Program through the Florida State University Center for Public Management and continues to promote and support CPM as an advisory board member. Cory, it is so nice to have you here on Sterling Visionary Voices.
Good morning, Bob, and thank you for the opportunity to visit and share with your listeners all things great about Sterling, and I'm excited about connecting this morning. We'll give you all guys fair warning. It's early. It's very early in the morning, so we're still working through our caffeine, but hopefully it'll be entertaining. If any of you guys have issues with the accent, just share this with a friend from Georgia, Alabama, and they'll help walk you through it in case there's some phrase or term that I may say that you may not understand. So we're going to have some fun this morning.
There you go. Well, very good, Cory. I'm really excited to talk with you this morning. First, about the upcoming Sterling Leadership Conference and more specifically about your involvement in the whole thing. You are the closing keynote speaker, and as such, you'll be inspiring the attendees to apply their newly acquired knowledge. You looking forward to that?
Yeah, that's a monumental task. I'm honored. I'm extremely honored and humbled to have been asked to do that because, the opening keynote's fancy, but the closing may be the tougher one because they've already been exposed to some of the greatest minds and presenters and all the various workshops that Sterling is so good at putting on. I'm excited about it. It's always good because I know here's 2 things that are definitely going to happen. I'm going to connect with people who I've known for the past 2 decades that have been involved in this. And I'm going to meet some new, fresh faces and folks that are coming in that are just now getting exposed to it. And there's going to be excitement on both sides. So I'm very much looking forward to visiting with Sterling again. It's been a couple of years in my job changes and transitions since I've had that opportunity. I've done it many times before, but I'm looking forward to getting back connected with what I really believe is my family.
Excellent. Hey, I understand that your topic for the keynote is interactive leadership. Now, without giving it all away, what can you tell our listeners about that topic?
Well, first of all, it starts with a basic premise that no individual ever created anything great and impactful on their own. It just doesn't work that way. Thomas Edison, who created the light bulb, probably had some of the most talented engineers of his day working with him. I think the numbers, when you go back and read the history, is upwards of 300 people that were working alongside and with him to make that happen. Well, that's leadership. Nothing great's created in itself, and it requires that we be intentional about our interactions with those wonderful humans that we've been given the privilege and opportunity to lead. And it sometimes requires that the leader, say some crazy things like, I don't know, and I need help, and what do you think? And some of the most powerful words that we can ever utter as a leader is to look that person in the eye when they come to you with their challenge or problem, and there's a high probability of success. It's not like they're going to, run the train off the rails. And you look them in the eyes and you say these simple words: you decide. Because when you do that, I mean, in that little exercise, it feels good to say it, but the receiver is hearing a whole different message. I trust you. I believe you're competent. We value you. We value you as a person, but we also value your mind. So leaders do well to do more of that sometimes than telling. And that's the interactive part. I'm going to do something a little different this time. I'm going to get out of my own comfort zone. And even in a keynote, a closing keynote, where the expectation is going to be that this guy is going to get up there and be dynamic, motivative, and he's just going to one way give this monologue on all things we need to know. And I'm going to Jedi mind trick because it's going to be very participatory. And better than tell you how that's going to look, let's just show the people. Now, Bob, you've interviewed hundreds of leaders. I mean, you're playing a tremendous role here in what you're doing to promote Sterling. But in that journey, you're getting to visit with some very impactful leaders across Florida and the nation. In having done that, take a moment and I'm going to interview you. in doing that, what has been a characteristic or trait that you would say is definitely top three that you've seen in those individuals or in your own work experience, said that's what makes them an effective leader?
Yeah, I'm thinking back is really them being kind of participatory leaders, if there's such a word. I don't know. Them really recognizing kind of where you're coming from. The team that they don't know everything, but they're helping.
Yeah. Well, see, you said that in a way that I would probably never do it if I'm doing it on my own in a presentation. But yeah, participatory means they're intentional. They look at you and the way they speak to you leaves you in a feeling that, you see me and I matter. And it's so important that we do that, because at the end of the day, what are we? We're all humans. We all have went through the path of early childhood development and creates the person that we are today. And guess what? That stuff doesn't change just because we go in a building with 4 sheetrock walls and we call it an office or an organization. We bring that stuff with us. So we do well as leaders to connect with them in that way. And as my favorite part about that, as a result, you earn influence, not just authority. You remembered that, the participatory, to be participatory. And if folks listening to this podcast, if you don't do anything other than what just happened just then, and write that down, that I want to be a more participatory leader. What are 3 things I can do next week to demonstrate that I'm more participatory as opposed to just isolated and giving directives? Then next week you're going to be a better leader. So thank you for that, Bob. That was a great response to my question.
I'm not used to being on this side of the microphone, I think.
Yeah, and I think there'll be some people at conference that'll feel the same way, but that's okay. We'll work through that.
I think that's going to be fun closing keynote.
That's the goal.
Well, very good. So I understand that you'll also be participating in kind of the executive roundtable, which is kind of a side portion that goes on Friday mornings of conference week. Which is an opportunity for Sterling to actually meet a lot of the executives throughout the region who may or may not have already gotten, really actively involved in the whole Sterling process. And because I want to say that I've heard you speak at the executive roundtable before.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've had the privilege of doing that before. For those who are not familiar with it, it's almost like an outreach, but it's a service that Sterling's been provided to say, look here, executive leaders and these wonderful public and private sector agencies, we think you would benefit from hearing the model and sort of how the Sterling approach, what that is. So they bring them in and they get treated to a wonderful morning with, breakfast and continental donuts and danishes, and then we sit down and they're all assigned to a table, sort of literally a round table. Mm-hmm. And then they bring in folks like me who have been exposed to this stuff for years, and then we facilitate a conversation among those leaders around the key categories that the Sterling model is built around. For instance, customer service. One table may be assigned that, say, what are the areas in which you think you could improve, or really that you do well in areas of customer service, and get them thinking about it in that very specific, isolated way about do we know who our customers are? Do we know what their unique needs are? And then each one of those tables has a separate category, and then they all report out. And that's where the magic happens in the room. That's where people connect and start giving feedback. And it almost inevitably seems like we run out of time, which is exactly what you want to happen.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking that, clearly you are not a stranger to Sterling. As I mentioned before, you having won the Governor Sterling Award in the past. What would you say is really the benefit of this type of leadership excellence model?
Yeah. Wow. This may take all our time, but I was working, I spent 6 years in central office at the Florida Department of Corrections, and I had the privilege of working, I say alongside, not for, a very influential leader, Mr. Harry K. Singletary Jr. And I believe in honoring those people who saw something in us that we didn't see in ourselves and demanded a lot of us. And he was my guy. And at the time, there was this governor named Governor Lawton Childs who had come in, and all of a sudden we were starting to have conversations around a quality management and this something called Sterling. That's how early into the game I was. And I was like, well, okay, what are they doing to us now? What's fixing to happen here? And the secretaries of all the agencies, were sort of voluntold that this is a model that we're going to embrace. But Secretary Singletary saw the value in it and gladly embraced this model. So that was my first exposure to it. But let me simplify it for the sake of time. It takes a very complex organization that has all of its systems, its technology, its finances, its communication strategies, and how it deals with customers, and how customer complaints come in, and the chain supply, all this big bowl of spaghetti, for lack of a better term. And what this model allows you to do is isolate those specific components in those 7 categories to say, okay, set everything else aside for a minute. How well are we addressing the employee focus in our organization? And we look at that in a very finite way. And then you progress through each one of those 7 categories and begin to say, how do we measure whether or not we're winning or losing here? Vince Lombardi, if you ain't keeping score, you're just practicing. So how are we doing? I mean, are we winning this game? Do we know what the frustration points are for our employees, our customers, and what are we doing to address it? And is the way that we're going about it a systematic, repeatable process? Not just management by memo. We're going to send 1,000 memos out saying this is the priority for this week. No, this model checks and validates that whatever you're implementing is systematic, repeatable over time, and has the ability to train others so that, guess what? Your organization now is sustainable. It's sustainable. So one of the examples I love to give, and aside from that, you get to connect with best in class businesses that are even outside your industry. When we won the Sterling Award for the tax collector's office, we weren't just talking to the tax collector's office. We were talking to health departments. Because what in the world has the health department got in common with the tax collector? Well, they have massive numbers of customers needing multiple variations of services. Guess what? That's tax collector's office. So we would reach out to them, and we were having conversations with Chick-fil-A. We spoke to the chief operator. I'm still friends with him to this day. Mark Miller, who was the vice president. He's since retired, but he was the vice president of leadership development for Chick-fil-A. He now does, in a much better way than I do. He's a very published author and all that. We're reaching out to them because if you want to know customer service, you got to ask who's doing it better. Why would you sit in a double drive-through lane, 25 cars deep at a Chick-fil-A, but you never do that at the other chains? And that's what Sterling is about, is because you trust what's going on in that building. You trust the process because what? You've had a consistent experience, repeatable, sustainable, systematic, and what we want to be is the Chick-fil-A of whatever industry you're in. And Sterling helps you do that.
There you go. Very good. I love, I'm taking notes on some of the cool things you're talking about here, but it is interesting to see a tax collector's office benchmarking fast food for best practices. Yeah, absolutely.
We went to them. We went to Publix for employee engagement because they, for whatever reason, they had some of the highest employee satisfaction. Navy Federal Credit Union and over in Pensacola, consistently on the top list in Forbes magazine for the best places to work. You know what? We got on the phone and called them. What are you guys doing? And could you imagine Chick-fil-A's initial response when we called their headquarters? What does a tax collector want to know about, chicken sandwiches? And the beauty of that is they were so taken back by that and excited about it that they sent us everything. They did web meetings. It was just wonderful.
Wow.
I talked to Mark Miller the other day. He's sending me his complete volume of every book he's ever written to put in a library resource that we're building out at my former agency, the Walton County Sheriff's Office. He's gladly just donated those.
Oh, wow. Very good. Very good. Gosh, I tell you, it means a lot to an organization when they can get out of their mindset of, I'm a tax collector or I'm a Department of Health and look out like that. And so it's really powerful to have you be able to share that and share an example that people are going to say, wow, that's crazy. But absolutely.
Yeah. There's a lot being said now about, government and government efficiency and all. Sterling was Doge before there was Doge. That's what it is. It's what it does. It seeks out efficiencies and how to do it better and quicker and cheaper, but not without jeopardizing quality. I mean, that's what this whole movement's been about for at least 3 decades now in Florida.
Yeah. You talk 3 decades. We're actually, this year's conference is the 33rd conference, the 33rd year of the Sterling Leadership Conference. This year it's May 27th to the 30th. So let me ask you, it's in Orlando. Let me ask you, besides getting to hear your keynote on Friday, what do you feel is the real benefit of attending this kind of conference this year?
I think we just alluded to it, is that not only are you going to hear from some of the most dynamic speakers you ever seen, but you're also going to be in and around some great organizations that have nothing to do with what you do. They don't have any preconceived opinion or notion about how your operations work. But at the end of the day, the same things that work for a Fortune 500 company, many of which, will be in attendance at this thing, will work for you, and you get to make those connections and take advantage of the social component of Sterling. A lot of it is about that, where after they've been through classes all day, you get a chance to socialize, and you get to go to the receptions and visit with these people. And don't go in there, to all my fellow introverts. You wouldn't know that about me, but I'm an introvert, according to the test. But don't be intimidated by that and say,
well, you're definitely compensating.
Yeah. Forget about going in and I'm going to network. What I want you to do is go in and connect work, which means there's no expectation that you talk to all 300 people in the room and exchange a business card. If you leave Sterling and you found 6 individuals outside of your industry that you can connect with in a way that's intentional, that you're going to leave there a better leader, and you're going to have those resources. We should never be the loudest voice in our life. It's sort of neat to be able to call somebody that you respect as a leader outside of your organization. Say, what do you think about this? Here's this challenge I'm facing. This employee's driving me crazy, because every now and then that can happen. It's rare, but every now and then some of the humans that we work with can get under our skin a little bit. And you have a team of advisory members that can sort of walk you through some of those challenges.
Absolutely. Well, Cory, I really truly enjoyed our discussion today. I want to thank you for sharing your insight on the conference, on Sterling, the whole Sterling model, and personally, I'm really looking forward to your keynote on Friday. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's definitely been an honor. Just we'll leave the folks with this. We've talked a lot about leaders on this podcast, and I don't want anybody here leaving thinking the notion is that we're just talking about the guy in the corner office or the gal in the corner office at the top. Leaders are at all levels, and everybody in an organization can lead in their own way. In a lot of cases, the last person you hired has the greatest capacity to lead, because they do not have any preconceived opinion or notion about what it's supposed to look like. So they can walk around and say things like, wouldn't it be great if? What if we did this or that? And there's value in that, and that's leadership. So everybody in the organization has capacity to lead. So when you hear us banner around that word leader, we're talking about you.
There you go. That's very, very profound closing statement there, young man. I do appreciate that. Well, folks out there, to find out more about the Sterling Leadership Conference, simply go to thesterlingconference.com. There, you can actually see a picture of Cory, as well as learn more about the activities, the workshops, and even how to register for the event. Well, that's all our time we have for today. I want to thank you all for joining us here at Sterling Visionary Voices. To hear other episodes, just go to sterlingvisionaryvoices.com. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Sterling Visionary Voices, Insights for Role Model Leadership from the Sterling Council. Discover more and connect with us at sterlingvisionaryvoices.com.